This is in fact an intervention for myself. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's Corinne, and here I talk about all things reading, writing, booktube, book social media, etc. And doing this has given me a bit of a book buying problem, as you will see in this video. So I've already put out two videos recently. One was like what I'm going to read this winter, and it was a lot of books that I haven't read yet, books that I have got over the past year, or books I have got recently that have wintry vibes. And then I did another video, TBR video for 2026, which was all of the other books that aren't necessarily for winter that I'm going to read this year. And now here I am, merely a few weeks later, having acquired like a problematic amount of books to read this year on top of everything else I've already spoken about. So this is going to be the last video like this that I'm going to make. And after this, I am enforcing a strict no buy rule for myself for 2026. Because to be honest, my bookshelves are full now, they're at capacity. So I need to read what I have before vowing to buy more, with the exceptions of audiobooks, which I will continue to get monthly, books that I've already pre-ordered that haven't come out yet, and also books in series that I really love that I want to continue with. For example, the sequel to The Night and the Moth, the next book in the Ninth House series, potentially the follow-up to Direbound once I read that, if I love it. Those are my exceptions, but otherwise, like, the doors are closed. This is it. This is all that's being allowed through. And if I want more, I can just go to the library like a normal person. Without further ado, let's crack on and look at the books I have bought for myself with Christmas money or got for Christmas, kind of upon request, because I kind of made a list of here's some books I would really like for Christmas, and one book that I obtained ethically by borrowing it from my mum. Let's start there actually, because I want to know if anyone else has read this. Gilded Cage by Vic James. This was part of BBC Radio 2's book club, apparently. It's apparently set in a modern Britain with an age-old cruelty. It's about Britain's magically skilled aristocracy compels all commoners to serve them for 10 years, and now it's Hadley's turn. Abby Hadley is assigned to England's most ruthless noble family. The secrets she uncovers could win her freedom or break her heart. Her brother Luke is enslaved in a brutal factory town where a new friend's ideals might cost him everything. Then, while the elite vie for power, a young aristocrat plots to remake the world with his dark gifts. As Britain moves from anger to defiance, all three must take sides, and the consequences of their choices will change everything forever. So I thought this sounded really intriguing. Seems like quite dystopian, but in a fantasy version of Britain. And I haven't seen anyone talk about it, haven't seen it on Book Talk or BookTube anywhere. So I thought, you know what, there's something different that isn't super, super popular and will add a bit of variety to my reading tastes. Maybe I'm wrong and it's actually super popular. Let me know if you've read it and if you'd recommend it. I also got His Black Tongue, which has a very creepy cover. This is a medieval horror. It's set during the plague, during 14th century France. However, it seems that there are things worse than the plague going on in this tale. For example, things with black leathery wings. I'm currently playing The Plague Tale on the PlayStation 5, about to play the sequel, which I haven't played before, which is also a medieval horror set in France during the plague. And so that's why this book in particular really appealed to me. I wanted something for the kind of winter time that had that medieval horror vibe. Haven't read any medieval horror before, but it just sounds very dark and twisted. I think the medieval period is really fascinating. A lot of fantasy books are inspired by the medieval period. So I think I'm going to enjoy this, but time will tell because it's different from what I've read before. Speaking of experimental, I also got A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. This is about a Mormon who's always believed in the afterlife, in heaven, that he'll go and be reunited with his family. However, when he dies, he finds himself cast into a hell by a god he didn't even know existed, and this hell has a completely different conception from his religious conception of hell. He's in a vast library and he can only escape by finding the book of his life. Sounds vaguely like the Midnight Library, but I expect like better things, less simplistic philosophy from this book. It's very short, it's a novella. The author is a philosopher, an ecologist, So I think it'll be a little bit more highbrow than the Midnight Library, and I'm excited to see what I learn from this book. Then I got Sadie by Courtney Summers. Courtney Summers is an author I really love. I've got many of her books, mostly her young adult books, and this is an adult book. So I thought I would give it a go, see what her adult stuff is like. I think she's a super talented author, and this sounds like an interesting thriller. Sadie is a girl that runs away and goes missing after the brutal murder of her younger sister. Her journey to avenge her sister becomes a very popular story on a blockbuster podcast. The story alternates between Sadie telling her own story and transcripts from the podcast, kind of looking for clues of where she has gone in this pursuit of her sister's murderer. Sounds perhaps like it might be a critique on true crime as entertainment, and I had few kind of thrillers like this in my stack for the year, so I'm glad that this is there to fill that little gap. Then we have The Phoenix Keeper. I think this is a cozy fantasy. I think there's a little bit of romance. It was in the fantasy romance section. It's set in a zoo of magical creatures. There's phoenixes, dragons, unicorns, etc. Our main character has studied conservation at uni, and in particular, she's passionate about saving the phoenixes and phoenix conservation. After studying, she lands her dream job at this magical zoo and is tasked with saving the rare phoenix from the brink of extinction. I thought it sounded really fun. I love magical creatures and this kind of cozy fantasy world that it promises. I've studied animal behaviour and work for a sanctuary, taking care of animals as a behaviourist, so I thought this was really intriguing. I've got a lot of friends and people I know, people from uni that went on to work for zoos and in conservation, so I thought this like married the two worlds together pretty well, and I'm excited to see what this has in store. We then have The Lamb, a story about cannibalism. It's about a girl and her mother living in the woods, and people come by and they basically eat them. It's got some like Hansel and Gretel dark folk horror vibes, and I believe it's also about womanhood and feminism and a symbolism for all of those kinds of things, which sounds fantastic. I love a good literary thriller, literary horror, so I'm glad that I've added this to my collection for the year. I then found this book while I was browsing in Waterstones. It's called City of Nightmares, or Welcome to the City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaeffer. And I've not heard anyone talk about this one before. Let me know if you've heard of it or if you've read it. In this city, people turn into their own nightmares if they don't face their fears. For example, our main character's sister turned into a big giant spider, and our main character, Ness, is scared of the same kind of thing happening to her. She seeks protection from some kind of cult, and some kind of explosion like pretty much takes her out. She then like teams up with this nightmare boy and has to uncover the secrets of like what's going on in this city and who was behind this attack, this explosion. Sounds weird, sounds thrilling. I'm excited to read it at some point in the year. I then got So Thrilled for You by Holly Bourne, which finally came out on paperback. I've read loads of Holly Bourne books, few of her adult novels, and many of her young adult novels as well. This is about a group of friends in their 30s, and life is pulling them all in different directions, especially as they start to have children. One of the friends organises a baby shower for one of the others in the group, and someone commits arson at it and burns the baby shower down. And in the aftermath of this event, all of the women in this friendship group have a different perspective on what happened. This book is about motherhood. I think Holly Bourne has put a lot of her own experiences and feelings about her own motherhood into this book. And it's also about how friendships change after motherhood and what it might feel like when, you're not having a baby, but all of your friends are. I think most women in their 30s go through this at some point. Either they become a mother or their friends become a mother. Fewer people, it feels like, are having babies these days. Like a lot of my friends aren't having babies. I'm not having a baby, but I do have a number of friends that have as well. And, undoubtedly that changes things, that changes you. And that's just kind of how it is. It's normal, but, everyone navigates that in a different way. So I'm excited to read this book and hear what Holly Bourne has to say about that. And it's a topic I find interesting. I want to be like a good friend to people I know that have babies and have become mothers and friends that don't as well. And I think this book will be about, how we can be there for each other even when we take different paths in life. Next, we have Every Exquisite Thing by Laura Stephen. Love Laura Stephen, absolutely loved Silver Cloak. Still haven't read Our Infinite Fates, which is sitting over there. Talked about it in one of the other lists. Like Infinite Fates, this is one of her other young adult novels. It's signed by her, which is nice. And this is basically like a sapphic Dorian Gray retelling. It's kind of dark academia. It's set at the Dorian Drama Academy. Our main character Penny has her painting painted by like this famous artist that kind of promises eternal beauty, etc. Just very similar to Dorian Gray. However, after this, the mentor that gives her this chance is found murdered and the painting is found slashed. I love the picture of Dorian Gray, so I'm excited to see this whole new twist on the story, and I just know that Laura has done a good job of this. Then we have The Memory Police, which is a dystopia. I'm writing a dystopia, so I feel like I need to read all of the popular dystopias. This is about an island where, when things disappear, people no longer have any memory of them. When a young novelist discovers that her editor is in danger of being taken away by the memory police, she desperately wants to save him. For some reason, he doesn't forget, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for him to hide his memories. Who knows what will vanish next? I think this sounds really intriguing. It kind of echoes the themes of 1984, but with its own twist. I'm excited to see what this book has to teach me. Then we have The Wedding People, very popular read. I've seen people talk about this book a lot. It's about a girl at a hotel where every guest is attending this wedding and it's all of the bridal party and everyone, and she's just like the only person there that has nothing to do with this wedding. The bride discovers that her elaborate destination wedding could be ruined by a divorced and depressed stranger, and she's furious. However, when both women, the bride and this random single depressed person, um, find their best laid plans derailed, they find an unlikely confidant in each other. Sounds like a good summer read. I'm excited to see what's made this book so popular, and my list is short on just normal contemporary stories, so I'm excited to add this one to the list. And speaking of contemporary stories, I also have People We Meet in Vacation by Emily Henry. I have read an Emily Henry book like one per year for the last couple of years, so for 2026 this is my Emily Henry of the year, and the film of this is coming out this week as of filming the book, so we'll need to give it a watch after I've read it. However, it's kind of a summer read. It's a vacation holiday read, so I'm not going to read it till later in the year. But I'm excited. I just love Emily Henry. I love that there's always additional deeper themes going on with the romance, but the romance itself is also super cute and endearing. I always root for the couples. I really want to read Funny Story and Happy Place as well, but maybe I'll just stick to this tradition of reading one a year. This year's kind of full, so they'll have to wait till 2027 and maybe even 2028. Finally, let's move on to my last three books, which are all hardbacks. We have The Everlasting. I referenced this in one of my previous videos, but I hadn't physically obtained it yet. It was still being delivered, so here it is. It's about a historian and this lady knight that he's obsessed with. This obsession kind of leads this historian back into the past, where I think they have a romance and they try to rewrite her story, but it always kind of ends the same way. It's a standalone, not very thick, so not that typical of a romantasy. And I've heard so many good things about this, and so that's why I went out and I bought it and I added it to my list because I was like, I can't miss out on that one. I also got Fable at the End of the World by Ava Reid. I've not heard anyone speak about this one before, but I've heard people talk about Ava Reid and her other books. This one is signed by the author. I thought it has a beautiful cover and beautiful sprayed edges. It's like a Waterstones exclusive edition. And I thought this sounded like an intriguing dystopian kind of fantasy. It's about this world where this corporation encourages massive accumulations of debt, and by doing so, they kind of control all aspects of society. So we follow Inessa, who lives with her brother in a half sunken town. They barely scrape a living from their taxidermy shop, and her mother has secretly accrued a lot of debt. The only way she can get out of paying this debt is by sacrificing her daughter to this live streamed assassination event called the Lamb's Gauntlet, which sounds quite Hunger Games-esque. Then we also follow Melano, who is the assassin chosen for the spectacle. Melano is the product of years of neural reconditioning and physiological alteration, and she's basically a living weapon, famous for her cold brutality and deadly beauty. But she's also haunted by her failure in the last gauntlet when she broke down live on screen. As Mel pursues Inessa across the wasteland, each determined to claim victory, they begin to question what they've been taught. Could there be more to life than survival? Could they be capable of more than death? Could they, against all odds, be falling in love? This sounds really exciting and thrilling, similar to the Hunger Games, but with enough differences. Just like reading the description of this makes me want to like move this further up the list to read. I'm like, oh, shall we start reading it now? That sounds really good. This is like part of the problem when you like acquire too many books at once, is that like I am so excited to read all of these books. Like I would just quit my job and sit and read all day and get through all of these books, and I would have a wonderful life. But I can't read them all at once. And like choosing the next one to read is just torture. I'm like, okay, what is the vibe? What am I in the mood for? Oh, I really want to read Direbound. I really want to read Fable at the End of the World. I really want to read One Dark Window. And oh my god, we need to get that one read before summer because it's very much autumn winter vibes. But you know what? Having too many good books and being overwhelmed about what amazing book to read next, it's kind of the opposite of a problem. And speaking of amazing books that I'm desperate to read, that brings us on to the last one in the stack, which is The Raven Scholar with the black sprayed edges, Waterstone's exclusive edition. This is a big book. It's going to take me a while to get through, but I've heard so many good things about it. I'm excited. I'm intrigued. This is going to put off all of the other books I'm reading for a while to get through it, but it will be worth it, I'm sure. I should just clone myself, and one of me can do, all of the necessary things to live, and the other can just sit and read this and all of the other books in the stack. This is about a contest to become the next emperor. Basically, the emperor of this country in this book is stepping down, and they're going to hold a contest to see who's going to rise to the throne and replace him. The contenders are all people that have been trained at rival monasteries, and they all kind of are inspired by a different sacred animal. So I guess our main character is inspired by the raven. These people are all exceptional warriors, thinkers, and strategists. They're the best of the best. But then, as the contest begins, one of them is murdered. Our main character, Nima, who I guess is the Raven Scholar, decides to investigate this and hunts for the killer. If she succeeds, she might find herself on the throne whether she wants it or not, but if she fails, she will sentence herself to death. And that could set in motion a sequence of events that could end the Empire. This is an epic fantasy rather than romantasy, but I think there's still a romance in here somewhere. I think the protagonist is a little bit older than like the standard kind of 19, 20. And I'm excited to read a fantasy this year that's a little bit more complex and challenges me a little bit more, whilst also promising a lot of excitement and a bit of romance. So that's it. That's all of the books I got for Christmas slash got for myself for Christmas. And with that, I think I should probably stop buying books now for a good year, maybe even 18 months. Let me know if you've read any of the books in this stack. Let me know if any of these are on your TBR for the year as well. I hope your January is doing okay and it's not too depressing and you've got lots of fantastic books to read. Subscribe to my channel for more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!